Okay, lovely to be here with Sir Om Rupani.
Hello, hello.
And I want us today to dive into the topic of touch. I've been teaching the art of sensual touch for 3 years. Yeah, starting maybe even more. I started first in 2019 and then transferred my class in 2021. Right now, it's a 4 hour class where people can come and explore conscious, loving touch. And I highlighted that it's a bridge between massage touch and a sexual touch. And there is so much happening when we bring our love, our heart, our awareness to our hands. And I feel like people have some dogma around touch or fear around sensual touch. Maybe some pride, like, why do I need to learn touch? My partner's happy with our sex life. Um, and particularly, I know that I would not be in my relationship and I would not be in very good connection with Om Rupani if it's not for touch. Like, touch is something that let my body know I can trust this person. I can connect with this person. So there's so much to learn about touch. And I want to dive in deeper to the subject with you, Om.
Yeah.
And particularly, I know you are a master when it comes to working with the nervous system of the submissive. And I want to ask you, how did that click for you? Like, how did you figure it out that the quality of simply you landing your hands on someone's body can create experience or can spoil experience, like right at the beginning?
Yeah. I think it was a lot of good training, thanks to a lot of wonderful teachers, probably starting with the Tantra teachers like Laurie Handlers, Barbara Corrales, other ones who emphasized slowing down, first of all,
Mhm.
connecting with the body, connecting with your partner in a slow manner, doing body touch before doing sensual touch before doing sexual touch. And then all the wonderful training at One Taste also about being so honed in on the precision of the stroke. And I think it at some point it kind of brought in this concept of listening through your touch, listening to your partner's body through the touch. That it isn't about you're not operating in a vacuum
Mhm.
and you're not just operating from this is what I'm going to do. You're trying to connect with another person and you're kind of touching their body and listening to their body and creating a loop.
Mhm.
And then that kind of mindset and training, I think, helps us build our repertoire and our intelligence a bit more, slowing down and listening, and then also asking for feedback, not expecting ourselves or our partner to be mind readers and saying, hey, please tell me how you're feeling. Tell me what's working, what's not working, how this touch is landing,
Yeah.
which kind of touch is better for you. So just really simply training without thinking that this is supposed to happen automatically.
Mhm.
I think I think you also just refer to this, and I come across this. I come across this for men more than women. That men think, oh, I know how to do that. I know how to touch women,
Uh-huh.
and I'm like, are you sure? Even if you even if you do, there's room for improvement. Even if you do, there's greater mastery possible because there's a range. There's such a big range, so it's not like it's one good touch that you give. From a
Mhm.
slight caress all the way to heavy pressure, to massage, to squeezing, to grounding.
Mm.
So it's good to have a whole range available and then be able to respond to your partner in the moment. So I think it is kind of a very active art form.
I like to say that think of your partner's body like a guitar, like a music instrument,
Yeah,
right? And your hands create those beautiful sensations, right? Like
yeah,
notes, like yeah. And it's I sometimes call my touch workshops intimacy without words
yeah,
because I think through touch we can send those messages, right, to the nervous system, to the unconscious, that words sometimes creates more problem that actually, soothing effects or deepening the intimacy or
yeah,
create the trust or allowing people to be seen. And like my wish for everybody is connect through touch, like for 10 minutes, like don't talk, just touch each other, because
Yeah.
that can bring like I feel like that truly forms the bond, because we are deeply social creatures, right? And we have so much skin.
Yeah.
For a reason, this skin needs to be touched, right? We're not bonding so much through our household responsibilities. We're
No.
bonding through intimacy, you know.
Yeah, and touch literally releases neurotransmitters and hormones, oxytocin and other things. So it's like, I mean, this is like known research. If babies and children are not held and touched and stroked,
Mhm.
it creates suffering and even permanent damage in their system
Yep.
if they're abandoned and if they're not held. So absolutely, it's as important.
Yeah.
That touch is one way we feel held, touch is one way we feel loved, touch is definitely one way we feel connected. And I think it's one of the most uh, important channels through which people decide, do I want more intimacy with this person or not?
Mm-hmm.
If somebody's touch doesn't feel good, it's kind of a deal breaker, right? And if somebody's touch feels good, you may overlook other qualities.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
if you were to run an experiment between a really good-looking guy whose touch a woman doesn't feel good about and an average-looking guy whose touch feels good,
Yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
think that the guy whose touch feels good will win out in the long run. I don't think women can stand being with guy whose touch makes them cringe or
Yeah.
makes them uncomfortable.
Yeah. Or when it's not present touch, or when it's touch with more of taking energy instead of
Yeah,
giving, right? Or grounding energy. And yeah, what you were sharing made me made me think about that in a relationship, people, right, like when things are getting harder, like if, when people are having conflicts or fighting, they stop touching each other, right? Like they completely like remove that from their connection, where actually through regulating each other nervous system through touch allows you to have those breakthroughs, because as you mentioned, it activates different neural pathways in your brain,
yeah,
and you can actually get out of this, you know, very um rigid narrative, right, or judgment that might run in your head.
yeah. I think if we can have that much awareness to do that when we are fighting, it that would be the enlightened way to have a relationship. People generally tend to withdraw, and withdrawal is painful. And I think often we do it because we want to punish our partner.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're not coming from the best space when we do that. But certainly, if we want to hurt, we just, so that goes to show, if you want to hurt your partner, withdraw your touch,
Hmm.
and you know that's going to hurt them.
But what it's actually going to do, it's going to hurt your relationship. It's going
It
to
will do that. Yeah,
two of you further apart. Like
yeah,
you're not punishing your partner, you're actually punishing your relationship, and in a way punishing yourself.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
When I work with couples, I tell them, and I particularly work with several couples who have different love languages, right? And different erotic blueprint, and they desire different things. And that creates, you know, some turbulence in their relationship. And one of the tool that I give them, like, do 10 minutes of touch one way when one person receives, and 10
yeah,
minutes touch when another person receives. Just do that. And then start your communication, then start checking in with each other.
yeah.
And they report me back that, like, wow, like it really creates a difference in our relationship. We're more open to each other, we're more willing to understand, we're more willing to compromise, and it creates more bonding.
Very much so. I think what happens when couples are not getting along, or their resentments have piled up, or they have so many complaints with each other, is that their receptivity shuts down.
Yeah.
And then trying to have breakthroughs while you're no longer receptive to each other is like really, it's
Mhm.
difficult.
Yeah.
So, and if you are able to receive even a foot massage from your partner, but
Mhm.
really receive it, all of a sudden your receptivity channels are opening. And I think even the conversation that follows can be more productive and more, you won't be as hell bent on winning the argument as like, let's see if we can work this out.
Oh my God, that is so, so true. Yeah, because when our nervous system, right, is in survival, we're
Yeah,
not coming from a heart space. That's like not not where our attention goes.
yeah,
Totally. I wanted to also talk about very important piece about consent and
yeah,
exploring your yes and no through touch.
yeah,
I found in my practice that touch is, in a way, the easiest way for a person to start noticing what's going on for me when something doesn't feel good
yeah,
and don't want to say it. And I continue tolerating and how it affects my relationship. And I put a lot of attention in my classes on playing with giving each other no and just say no, thank you.
yeah,
Person responds, thank you for taking care of yourself. So they can say it out loud and hear their own voice, that the story that they make, oh, like she or he just rejected me. They don't like my touch. Something's wrong with me. And instead of go anywhere, they say, thank you for taking care of yourself. So it allows them to, right, like have this clean separation
yeah.
that your partner by default doesn't need to constantly um, justify what you're doing, right? Being available for you, people please, taking care of you. And I think that's such an important piece in a relationship where,
Yeah.
right, we're merging or, people start pleasing each other or being afraid to say no because it means that I'm a bad partner or something.
I agree. I think it's the communication part is important. I think the most breakdowns we have is when we don't ask whether our touch is feeling good or whether our touch is welcome.
Yeah.
And then when we even when we have that glitch, it's it's in that zone where what is being offered is not being received or what is being offered is not feeling good and nobody speaks up.
Yeah.
And it can be a glitch, but I think, yeah, I mean, if that those glitches are bound to happen in sensuality,
Mm-hmm.
and we do our best to try and clean them up as much as possible. And I think people, it'd be great if we are a little bit flexible, that if we don't expect everybody to be perfect all the time. This
Mm-hmm.
is something that comes up in coaching couples where if the touch is off a little bit, people respond with irritation or
Yeah.
like, why can't you do it right? Because it's no one's going to be perfect all the time. People are going to goof off. There are going to be glitches in intimacy. It's
Or,
hard to kind of hit the mark perfectly
mm-hmm.
in reading somebody. And so it's great if we can cut each other a little bit of slack and adjust each other and kind of give each other room to grow.
Yeah.
So I see this challenge training couples, training people who are new or even in classroom and people are partnering with somebody they don't know. Like
Mm-hmm.
give them a little bit of a chance, give them a little bit of a benefit of the doubt to adjust themselves, communicate,
Yeah.
say that doesn't feel good or don't touch me here, touch me here.
And do it with approval, right? Doing with not criticism
Yeah,
or, right, like irritation, like you said,
yeah,
but with approval. Um, yeah, and I wanted
uh,
to add something. Oh, I wanted to say that if you receive the touch that doesn't feel good and you continue to tolerate what it does to your body, right? You overriding your own consent.
right.
And then the access to pleasure starts shutting down because
Yeah,
your body doesn't feel safe and heard first and foremost by you, not
yeah,
by the other person.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's great sometimes if you can see that the other person is actually trying to please you, even if their touch is not hitting the mark, that
Mm-hmm.
they are actually touching you with intention and desire, but that doesn't mean what they're doing in every single moment is going to land perfectly.
Yeah.
So if we can have that much kind of little bit of a perspective, like they're trying and they actually want to get close to you,
Mm-hmm.
they actually want to be intimate with you, they're actually hoping you're gonna like their touch, but maybe something is not working in the moment.
Yeah.
Instead of kind of painting the whole thing dark, it just makes more room for improvement. It makes more room for kind of growing. This is particularly important because in BDSM play, we play with such a wide range of touches. You
Yeah.
mentioned taking touch. We very much play with taking touch. We play with ravaging touch,
Yeah.
very strong touch in BDSM play. And everybody, people have a desire to be touched that way, to be taken that way, to be ravaged that way. And it can be very chargy, right? It can happen in a way that can jar the system in the moment because it is kind of intense. It can even be aggressive.
Yeah.
And it's like, let's communicate if something is not working and see if we can hit the correct note
Mm-hmm.
and give each other room so that we can also have access to those places.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't always want the safest touch. We don't always want the PG touch. We do want the
Yeah.
ravaging, rip my clothes out and put your hand on my throat touch, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's have all of it. And the more intense the touch gets, the more aggressive, the more rough the touch gets, bigger the odds of breakdowns
Mm-hmm.
sometimes
Mm-hmm.
in the makeout, in the BDSM scene. So it's like it's a dicey area.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And right, I want to highlight that in order for you to get to this level, you need to learn how to feel your partner's body
yeah,
and start with the loving touch where you feel into, am I allowing my partner to relax, drop in? Are they opening up to me? How does my touch affect them? Are they responding to my touch? Right? What are those signals? Like, how does it feel in my body? Can I notice that they are shutting down or they are opening up? And this is why I teach classes. I have the art of sensual touch, which is level 1, and the art of tantric touch, level 2. I teach those classes and we playing with not sexual energy. We playing simply with loving energy. Can I serve my partner with devotion and love and put my whole attention on them and feel through my hands what's happening to their body? Because, right, then to take it to the impact play or DS play, like that's an advanced level of mastery. And if you don't feel what's going on to your partner, right, you cannot do that. Like, I mean, you can, but right, its risks are much higher.
yeah. And I think the more intense the connection is, the more you should communicate. And the more you should leave room to that everything's not going to work perfectly every single moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
Right.
not taking ours personally. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
big one for couples. Yeah.
Yeah. Give each other a little bit of wiggle room. Sometimes people make mistakes. They may go overboard. They may have good intentions. They may be enthusiastic, but
Mm-hmm.
it may not land. This is why we play with safe words. This is why we allow for yellows to happen in BDSM play.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you consider every yellow or every red a mistake, then we can't give each other any room to play and experiment.
Yeah. How are you going to learn, right?
How are you
Like,
going to learn? Yeah, so give each other a little bit of wiggle room
yeah.
and make each other better.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why every time we do an exercise, I give time for them to share with each other highlights, what happened, what did they feel. So
Yeah,
there's a lot of communication. And I also remind that what feels good today doesn't mean it's going to feel good tomorrow. So
yeah,
like, it doesn't mean that what you learn in class, you're going to continue practicing ongoing. Like you still need to communicate with each other because
yeah,
it changes, depends how we feel and what's going on for us.
very much so. As you mentioned, it's like learning to play an instrument, but the instrument keeps changing day to day. So it's more complex than that.
Totally. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say that, right, like in our connection, when I met you for the first time and like came to your workshop, right? And when you lent hands, I feel like just on my shoulders, I felt right away like, wow, like I can like trust this man to do anything. And that was, and that time it was what, 5, 6 years ago. It was like a
Yeah.
shocking thought. I'm like, what are you thinking? But that was such a beautiful experience to know that, wow, like you don't have to know a person very well, but you can feel so safe in their
Right.
presence just because you feel, right, like the preciousness in their touch and awareness and a sense of attention.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
That's wonderful. It's wonderful when that happens right off the bat.
Mhm.
That's good chemistry.
Yeah.
And but as a teacher and even as a student, I'm like, let's also leave a lot of room to learn and improve.
Yeah.
That if things don't work the first time around, it's not hopeless.
No.
Let's
No.
work on it.
No, and I also think, right, practicing receiving, because every time I teach a class, people always like, it's so hard for me to receive. It's so hard for me to receive. So we have, right, like this kind of like epidemic of people just not having room to receive, right? Because like the everyday life constantly asks you to produce something and to give something.
Yeah,
So there's not enough space to just allow yourself to simply feel your body. And that's like anything, just takes more practice.
very much so. I feel like there's always the two sides. On the giving side, I'm like, learn to listen to your partner's body, and
Mm-hmm.
that's an art form. Then
It
on
is.
the receiving end, also, if your mind is really, really busy and filled
Yeah.
with no thoughts and noise, you actually can't tune into the
Yeah.
touch you're getting.
Yeah.
And then oftentimes people, when you ask somebody, well, did you enjoy that touch? They're not even sure
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
because they weren't present.
Yeah.
So I
Mm-hmm.
think if the two people are not present in their touch, it's like it's hard to create that positive loop.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's why I teach those classes consistently every month, and continue doing that because it's very, very much needed. And I truly believe that it's more effective than years of therapy. Not saying that therapy doesn't work,
yeah,
but touch sometimes can be more effective than words.
very much. I really believe it is kind of the groundwork needed for building better sensuality.
Yeah,
That if you don't have good touch connection, it's hard to like do anything else beyond that.
absolutely.
Right. Even in the BDSM play, I'm like, even if you're going to use instruments, they should be an extension of your touch.
Okay. Yeah, I
First,
remember.
learn to touch well, and then
Mhm.
almost use the flogger or something as another form of touch, another texture of touch.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good approach to it.
Yep. And to learn to ground. Yeah, I teach 6 modalities of touch for them to learn the difference and the impact of the different type of touch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I feel like it was a quite a conversation with a lot of things.
Wonderful. I'm glad you're doing the training you're doing, and I think couples should come learn this thing. I think it's a really great foundational step to have
Yeah.
for people.
Yeah. And I
And I
say to people, you don't have to be in a relationship. You can come with somebody you see casually or
yeah,
somebody just your close friend. You just need to come with a person you're comfortable to give and receive touch.
right. Wonderful. Good.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.